to the Wright family, just letting you all know, from the Floyd family, y'all have our condolences. We will stand in support with you all. It's a shame. The world is traumatized watching another African-American man being enslaved. Every day I wake up, I never thought that this world could be in so much disorder like it is now. Police officers are killing us, and we are being murdered at a rate that I never thought I could imagine. Duante Wright, just like his last name Wright, he should still be here. Yes. It's a time for change, and that time is now. Minneapolis, you all can't sweep this under the rug anymore. Listen! We're here, and we will fight for justice for this family, just like we're fighting for our brother. I want to see the people get the maximum amount of time, just like I would have got the maximum amount of time.
You know, we saw this video of this young man, Duante Wright, and the police are saying that the young man was running from them. But what I saw was on that man's face was a scared young kid, you know, terrified. That's right. You know, as black folks, we've been here 400 plus years. And that young man, we've been running ever since from these police officers for trying to kill us. Back then, they was called the slave patrol. Now they called the police.
They simply say damn again. And when I say damn again, I mean another black man or woman killed at the hands of the police using excessive force. If you look around, we're standing outside the courtroom, and my family is right here, right now, in the middle of the Derek Chauvin trial for murdering my uncle George Floyd. In snow and freezing weather conditions, we came to stand with this family. At some point, we need change. At some point, we need better policing. At some point, we need officers to be held accountable, Amen. Charged, Amen. And convicted.
Amen.
Just because you are the law don't mean that you're above the law.
Right.
This is a bittersweet moment. It is somewhat gratifying that you have George Floyd's family who left out the courthouse where the Derek Chauvin trial regarding the death of George Floyd is currently underway because they thought it was important that they give comfort to Duante Wright's mother and father and family. It is just something I could not fathom that in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a suburb 10 miles from where the Chauvin trial regarding George Floyd was taking place, that a police officer would shoot and kill another unarmed black man. Listen. Because if ever there was a time when nobody in America should be killed by police, it was during this pinnacle trial of Derek Chauvin, which I believe is one of the most impactful civil rights police excessive use of force cases in the history of America.
We want the world to know that these are not isolated issues. Listen. That in fact George Floyd and Duante Wright is the face of hundreds of murders here in the state of Minnesota that have been covered up for many years, and the officers have walked free. There has been over 470 murders at the hands of law enforcement in the last 20 years in the state of Minnesota. And only one man in history has been held accountable, and that was a minority man that killed a white woman, Justine DeMond. We are unified, and we're standing in solidarity. We have strong supporters, strong attorneys that are backing us up, and we're here today to put an end to everything that you guys have tried to cover up, keep under the rug, because enough is enough, and we're standing up. Thank you.
So a lot of emotion outside of the courthouse. And don't forget, you've got the curfew that's going on, the demonstrations, everything else. It's all swirling around. Meanwhile, the defense started their case today. Let's bring in Julia Janae, Court TV legal correspondent, who is live in Minneapolis, Minnesota tonight. You're on the ground there. So this is obviously a national story, but it's give me an idea of all the different ways that this story is impacting that community in and around the courthouse in Minneapolis, in Hennepin County. What's going on out there?
Vinny, you can see the link between these two cases in the pain that you're hearing from those family members and in the way that people around here are saying they felt when they saw the George Floyd video. This is something that is pervasive in the news. You're seeing it on the front of the newspapers here. You're seeing it anytime you turn on the television, because almost at every minute you are hearing more about what the updates are, what the family is demanding, what the officer who pulled the trigger in this case, she's resigned. The chief of police has also resigned. And the mayor in Brooklyn Center is asking for this case to be moved from the Hennepin County area to the Attorney General's office. The same thing that we saw in the case of George Floyd. The governor is weighing in. The president is weighing in. But here on the ground, you're seeing precautions also uptick, because even though they were already preparing for a verdict day in George Floyd's death case, they are also now knowing that there has been unrest. There are demonstrations, much of them peaceful, but as night falls, we did see those clashes between police. I actually was on the ground in Brooklyn Center this morning, seeing the aftermath of that, where the police station is now completely surrounded by new fencing, concrete barriers, similar to what we're seeing at the courthouse here in downtown Minneapolis, and the National Guard is stationed there. I've only seen the National Guard in the Minneapolis area. I've been here for 4+ weeks. I've only seen them at the courthouse, and now we're seeing them in a different area, seeing them in the streets, also seeing them there stationed around the Brooklyn Center Police Department, standing guard.
Now, another unusual development here is that Keith Ellison is the Attorney General of Minnesota. He's the man who's in charge of the prosecution of Derek Chauvin for the murder of George Floyd. And he was out in front of that police department speaking with protesters. Let's put up on the screen what he actually said in part to these protesters. And he's speaking directly with, this is the guy, he's prosecuting the case right now. In the middle of prosecuting it, he's speaking with protesters for this other shooting, telling them, listen, I've been in court prosecuting criminal conduct. And so I hope you know, I don't need to tell you, I will prosecute the police because I'm doing it now, like right now. And he was trying to calm people down and make sure that, there were no more arrests or violence or anything happening. But this is completely unusual. You've got the man in charge of prosecuting the biggest case taking place in the nation right now, and at night he's in the middle of another story that is 10 miles away, Julia.
All community leaders here are coming together to try and calm the outrage in this case. So that's not unusual in the sense of there are so many leaders in this area who have come on the ground. The mayor was there last night. You have the governor who is tweeting various things, and they are all asking the community leaders, church leaders, to help people understand what is happening and that they are working very hard. They really want to show the community activists in this area, the crowds that have come out to protest, to let them know that this is not going to be similar to other cases, that they are going to prosecute it, they are going to investigate, and they're trying to be as visible as possible, because it's what happens now at this point on the ground. The people who are speaking out on this, when you hear the community activists, they're saying, look, we did this a certain way in 2020, and this is the outcome. We don't know what's going to be the outcome of Derek Chauvin, but they've seen how George Floyd has been treated as far as what the defense has brought up, and many aren't happy with the way that the trial is going. Trying to get a handle is what is the sense of what community leaders and those government leaders are doing right now, a handle on what the outrage will mean for the community. We're on a curfew here.
Yeah,
10 p.m.,
and that means jurors are on a curfew as well when they go home. They're on a curfew. And all of this, how is it going to impact this case? Let's bring into our conversation our special guest joining us tonight. We have with us From Los Angeles, California, civil rights attorney, former Court TV anchor Lisa Bloom, and in New York City, criminal defense attorney, civil rights attorney, and former anchor Court TV as well, Ron Kuby.
Hey, Lisa.
Great to see you both. Lisa Bloom, I mean, of all the places, right, across the nation where something like this could happen, it happens in the same county. You've got the prosecutor from the Derek Chauvin case, Keith Ellison, out in the middle of the night trying to calm down protesters. You've got the family of George Floyd outside the courthouse during a break speaking out and supporting the family of Duante Wright. Should this trial continue, Lisa Bloom, at this point?
So you say of all the places this could happen, and of course this happens all over the country, day after day after day, the shooting of unarmed civilians by police, disproportionately Black and brown people. So it happens here in my city to a large extent, Los Angeles. It happens in New York, and it happens in Minneapolis and in the suburbs outside of Minneapolis. Yes, of course, the trial should continue. The jury has gotten this far. It would be a terrible injustice if the George Floyd case stopped because another unarmed Black man was killed. It must go on. It should go on. It will go on because we need justice.
Ron Kuby, the jurors aren't sequestered. They're going home. They're instructed by the judge, and they're not going to watch television. They're not going to watch our show. They're not going to listen to us tonight. But I've got to think they all know what's taking place and what's happening. And now you've got a witness who testified yesterday, speaking out outside the courthouse, George Floyd's brother. You've got the family attorney speaking out. I mean, all this is clashing. The prosecutor, the head prosecutor in the case, in the middle of the night is speaking with protesters. This is unusual. This is uncharted.
It's unusual because the circumstances are somewhat unusual. I mean, let's face it, if Derek Chauvin's fellow Minnesota police officers wanted to do him a solid to try to make his trial fair, they could have sent out a memo or something saying, let's not kill any more unarmed Black people, at least until the trial's over. Just put it on pause for a couple of weeks. Apparently, somebody didn't get that memo. In terms of the actual impact on the defense, I think it's minimal. Look, I was trying a Black September case, an alleged Arab Islamic terrorist in the Eastern District of New York, when some of his co-religionists bombed the World Trade Center the first time. This was back in the early 90s. Yeah, it was unfortunate. It certainly made plea discussions like impossible, but the trial proceeded and justice was done in the sense that there was a verdict. I think the impact that it's going to have on the jurors is minimal, except for the sort of impact it's going to have on the African American jurors. And we can talk about sympathy and having sympathy for Duante Wright's family. And we have tremendous sympathy, and all people of goodwill have sympathy for him and for his family. But what we don't have is any sense of real empathy. None of us think this could actually be us or our children. And Black people in America think that every day. So I think it's going to add to the tragedy. But I don't think it's going to influence the verdict. I think all the jurors know that, we're doing this case. This is our job. We've been sworn to seek justice in this case. Other people will take care of other cases.
All right. We got a lot more to get to tonight. A lot of big moments. The defense starting their case. Julie Janae, we'll check back with you in just a little bit. Lisa and Ron will stay with us. Don't go anywhere.